जल्पो वितण्डेति त्रिविधा विदुषां कथा. Welcome to Sambhashanam.
I think we'll kick off this conversation with one pertinent topic, which I'll pick from one of your articles. I think this was on the American Kahani, that website, where you wrote of this experience where you're trying to draw a contrast between the experience of a priest in US, where he's talking about continuity of his profession in US in his family lineage, and then you also spoke about your experience in attending a concert, and then you drew some reference to arts where you were referring to the lineage of Ustad Alaraka, Zakir Hussain, and that family. And you made this very nice remark which caught my attention, where you said that this whole idea of inheritance and continuity is something that is prized in arts but not as valued or as prized in other pockets.
Every family or every extended family, if you look at it vertically, is like a micronation in terms of its particular traditions.
Right, right,
And until 2 3 generations ago, I think everybody was anchored around their Kula Devata, their Grama Devata, whatever. But with migration, with displacement, with modern education, first you have the physical uprooting, the people going to the cities or people going to other countries also, and then you have the mental severance, the mental dislocation where you give up the rituals, you give up
right.
the understanding, the stories, the practices, etc. Then the last few generations, you have this incursion of very large global forces which are premised on chopping off people from intergenerational continuity and building horizontal societies. I think something we could relate to in India as well. I'm sure people might have had, skirmishes in the past, but this idea of battling over religious doctrine or the idea of battling somebody because they're not believing X, Y, and Z the way you are, that was very alien, to the Native Americans and the indigenous people of this continent and the indigenous cultures of our subcontinent or anywhere.
This Native American as a word and Hindu nationalism, they're both, they have some similarities in the sense that if you were to ask a Native American to describe who he is, he'd still use the micro identity to identify himself, and he would not just say I'm a Native American and stop there, because that in itself it doesn't mean anything, in the sense that it is a kind of like a top down kind of an external imposed identity, but your own identity is composed of an amalgamation of all these micro identities, as you mentioned. So even in the Hindu case, really there's a whole bunch of other identities that come in from your jati, your lineage, the place you stay, the language you speak, and the maybe the panth or the kuladaiva or the sampradayas that you follow. So you get this like a concatenated string of various micro identities that really becomes your Hindu identity. So I think to that extent there is a lot of parallel between the Native American kind of an experience and the Hindu experience, in that we didn't annihilate most of our microcultures, and until not too long ago they all were thriving and continuing. I think that that's really a wonderful way of looking at it.
I coined a phrase a couple of weeks ago when I was talking with a friend here on a talk like this about communication and generational change. It was, I think, for a Hindu parenting platform, and the phrase I somehow ended up with was Hindu micro nationalism.
Mm-hmm.
So I was never a fan of the phrase Hindu nationalism, for or against.
Kantara also in some way is, it touches upon both these topics that we started off, which is on inheritance and also on the microcultures part of it. Where so when I saw Kantara, there were of course like multiple perspectives. I think it's one of these movies that came in recent past which will appeal to all sorts of viewers, and each one of them can really like it or not like it from a very different perspective. So because there are so many things going on there. So one strand which I felt was quite powerful in Kantara was on again on the inheritance or the father, son, mother, those conversations. And I really looked at it in terms of like a Swadharma kind of a conversation, where it kind of reminded me of K. Vishwanath's Swarnakamalam.
What hit me when I
Mm-hmm.
watched the movie was, I think you made a very nice and apt nuance there. for me, what hit me hard and I really loved that experience, that feeling was, the Panjurli, the Devata, right from the beginning, the way the shaman or whoever, the medicine man, to use Vine Deloria language, shouts, and the god is speaking through him, or a god is speaking. So it was the gods and their very powerful presence in people's everyday life, and everybody is just quietly observing or doing pranam and following the traditions.
Kantara left a powerful mark on me because there is a lot of these quest while the protagonist moves around, is like a vagabond at times, does all sorts of things. There are these constant series of visions that he keeps having, and at all points on time it's as if that there is some kind of a who am I kind of a quest running inside him. I think that's one of these painful questions that will keep plaguing us as we move away from our own individual micro identities and try to embrace something else. I believe there is still something inside which will keep poking on these transmissions and lineages. And I really saw that part of Kantara as was very powerful.
Catch up with the complete discussion on Dhvani podcast. To download the app, scan the QR code or click on the link given in video description.